It comes from other industries outside of what we do. I've been a firm believer, and I've said this for years, that anything that's been done the exact same way for 20, 30, 50 plus years is ripe for revolution. And that's exactly what's happening right now within our industries.
Welcome to the Waste No Day podcast, a podcast specifically for and about the home services industry as it relates to plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical. More than a podcast, Waste No Day is a credo, a determination, a mindset. It is a never-ending discipline. It is a refuse to lose pursuit. It is a wake-up call every morning to waste no day. Now here's your hosts, Brian Burton and Nate Minnick.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Waste No Day podcast. Your host, Nate and Brian, hanging out with you again and looking forward to a great show today. We have none other than fellow podcaster and sales trainer extraordinaire, Mr. Sam Wakefield is joining us today. He is the founder of Close It Now. You might have heard him on the interwebs or in the podcast world. He's sure getting around and making some splashes out there. So we are excited to bring him on to the show to talk about sales in the home. And we're looking forward to that conversation. But as we always do, we spend a little bit of time breaking it down for you ourselves. And we're going to start with Brian and our quote for the day.
I've stood on a mountain of no's for one yes. B. Smith.
As in, is that a recognizable Smith?
It was a model. I think she was an actress too, entrepreneur, restaurateur, but, considered herself a salesperson and was a salesperson. This is the late B. Smith, as it were. But awesome quote, because it's so real in sales. And I wanted to just run with that quote and say, that the quote resonated with me so much because it's like, it's not stand on a mountain of no's to get to a yes. You're going to climb a mountain of no's to get to a yes sometimes. Sales in the home services do not come easy. I mean, you will strive for them in most cases. Now, you're going to get laydowns. If you're somebody who's closing at like between 20 and 40% of calls you run, you're not a salesperson. You're just a technician and you take the laydowns as they come. But if you're a salesperson and you're closing upper 60s, 70s, 80s, hopefully into the low 90s, well, hopefully up to the hundreds, but I've never seen that happen. Well, you're a salesperson. You're a professional. And if you're not willing to ask for the sale, juke the first no, which, oftentimes is just a reactionary no, change the subject maybe, and then ask again, and then overcome the objection on that second no, because that's more of a real one, and ask again, and then overcome the objection on the third one, and ask again, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat, until the client either buys or you both realize, hey, like probably financially, like this isn't a fit, like it's not able to happen. You might be in the wrong profession, right? You might need to go install or be the person who handles client fulfillment. Like the sale happens without you there, right? Because this is what you have to do. And a lot of it is because home services, sales in general, anytime somebody's presenting something to anyone, this trade, this profession has been sullied by scoundrels and people looking to make a quick buck without actually delivering what they were selling. And it makes it harder and harder for the client to just say yes to something they know is good for them. Now, you can take that as personal rejection and it can close you down and you can walk away going, hey, I did my job. Nobody would have sold it. I asked. They said no. And you can roll out. Or you can understand that fact that probably some poor salesperson or scoundrel that you'll never hear about ruined this customer for things that are actually good for them. And they want it and they need it and they're going to be better off with that than the money they're going to spend on it, or you wouldn't be presenting it as a professional. And you have got to help them through this fog of distrust, right? Of misplaced fear in this situation. And that might take you getting your feelings hurt and coming out of your shell and taking some risks and asking a few different times. But just keep in mind that those clients that push you to your utter limits the ones that leave you feeling like just worked, exhausted, and you walk out, but you got the sale. Those clients will write songs about you in their Google reviews and Yelp and Facebook, making Facebook posts about you or whatever they do. They're the ones who really, truly needed a professional salesperson. But the ones where you maybe asked once and just got shooed away or didn't ask at all, or you built no real interest and you put, you just throw on the invoice, nah, not interested. And you just walk out the door and down the walkway. And then they never called you back, which they promised they would. Well, they ran into a real professional on the next call. Whoever came out after you was an actual professional. And they probably bit down and swallowed their pride and their ego and decided not to get their emotional needs met on this call. And they walked the client through every objection in this cloud of fear, misplaced fear. And they showed them what you were unable to show them by sheer determination. So if you want to be in the upper echelon of producers in the home services, this is what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to toughen up, and you're going to have to learn to take a no, not as a personal rejection, but as a statement by another human being that you have not convinced me yet. And remember, selling 90% conviction and only 10% persuasion. So oftentimes, if you're not selling, you're just not believable, right? And oftentimes that's just because, maybe your heart's in it, but tell your face, tell your body, and tell your voice. Let people hear that you're enthusiastic and excited about the product.
Yeah, Brian, I was just thinking lately here that, man, my daughter needs to go into sales. She has no problem hearing the word no and just charging right on through it and asking 36 more times. And I am getting worn out, let me tell you.
Well, look, Riley's not stupid. She knows her dad. And she knows that if she's going to get anything out of you, she's going to have to ask 200 times. I've been around you long enough to know this.
She is getting some compromised yeses, that is for sure. I'm just like, okay, what do I have to do to make this stop? No, it's good stuff, Brian. I appreciate you starting us off with that, man. And it is good advice to get us going here before we jump into the content with Sam. But one more thing before we do that, and that is to highlight one of our reviewers of the week, a faithful listener who has taken the time to spend a little bit of his energy or her energy and write us a review. And we do appreciate that. So, Brian, who are we highlighting today?
Game Time. 5 stars. These two masters of skill development have been pivotal in changing the game. Whether it is for personal or professional development, these monsters of gains have become the go-to for so many. From a personal standpoint, Brian and Nate have always been willing to lend an ear, advice, or even critical insight into my skills and shortcomings. I've had the privilege of working alongside both of them for 3 years until Brian followed opportunity to the desert. Thank you, gents. You guys will always have my gratitude. You guys have a listener for life. The Big Spike Dog.
Okay, Mr. Spiker.
J.R. Spiker. What's up, Spiker?
Buddy?
Yeah, Spiker used to work with Nate and me in Lancaster at the 1 hour. Appreciate that, brother.
Yeah, thanks for the review. Always nice to hear some kind words, even if most of them were heavily exaggerated.
No, spot on, but never said when he actually worked for us. It was like, oh gosh, Brian's coming with his nonsense again. I can hear eyes roll as I come down the hallway.
Oh no, thanks for that, Mr. Spiker.
Leave me alone, please.
Appreciate that, and we appreciate anybody else who takes the time to leave a review. Again, that's always not just a matter of encouragement, but it's a matter of helping to build the audience and get the podcast shared around. So we appreciate that. We know that you're also going to appreciate our next guest as we put Mr. Sam Wakefield in your passenger seat. Our guest today is Sam Wakefield. He is a dynamic force in the sales industry and the founder of Close It Now, a revolutionary sales training platform. With almost 2 decades of experience, Sam has transformed the way professionals approach sales, emphasizing customer-centric techniques and innovative strategies. His expertise extends beyond traditional methods, delving into psychological insights and neuro-linguistic programming, also known as NLP, to empower professionals to master permission-based selling. This method, where customers become co-creators in the sales process, has become a hallmark of Sam's training, his teaching, and a key driver of his success. At the helm of the globally recognized Close It Now podcast, which ranks in the top 2% of podcasts worldwide, Sam provides invaluable insights, advice, and motivation to sales professionals eager to elevate their skills. He embodies the Close It Now difference, advocating for a holistic approach to professional development that encompasses not only sales mastery, but also personal growth, fitness, nutrition, and relationships. His mission is to inspire excellence in all aspects of life, proving that individuals can indeed have it all. We are excited to have him on the show. Welcome here, Sam.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It is a pleasure and an honor to be a guest here. And the podcast I listened to earlier, I get the privilege of following some massive shoes of Mr. Chris Voss. So I hope that I can bring some heat for you
worry.
today.
We're putting you 6 months after Chris Voss. There's no way we're putting you guys back to back.
Because it wouldn't be fair to Chris Voss. That's why.
Yeah, no way. Save me a little bit of that.
Well, it's good to have you on here, Sam, and we are excited to talk with you today. And I know Brian has been spending some time queuing you up here, and we appreciate the social media mentions that you've put out there for us already. But we're excited to get to know you a little bit better, and our audience to get to know you as well as ideally your audience get to know us too. And it's always fun to have a fellow podcaster on the show and to see, kind of what that's like on the other end of the microphone, man. And so we're excited to have you on. So before we jump into some of the content, which of course is going to be around sales, since that is your specialty, let's hear a little bit about your life story, man. What have you been doing? How did you get into this industry, and what's life like now?
Oh man, yeah, that's a big question, right? So I've been in the industry about 18 years, almost 19 years now. Started off years ago as an attic rat pulling ductwork, as a helper on the crew, right? And after about a year, I was promoted to foreman, not because I'd gotten better necessarily, but because everybody else quit. So I became the guy. Huh? Yeah, I just ran them off. No, so became foreman on the crew, and did that for a little while. Then one day I almost died in an attic. I got it's small town Texas. It's 140 degrees. Came across a live 220 wire up in the attic. It got me on the arm. The person next to me had to kick me off of it. So I was like, man, that's enough of this. So I went off and did a couple of other things for just a little bit, but the owner of the company called me back and said, hey man, my brother that was the sales guy is leaving. I need somebody to fill that role. Come back and sell for me. It's like, we'll train you. I know you're not going to underbid the labor because you did it, and let's see what happens. And so I went back, made my first sell, and realized that the light bulb went off, and this is for me. I'm doing a training right now in Pennsylvania. So, but realized it was for me, and we moved into basically a year later. I bought into the company, and we grew a home performance division of the company. I was half owner of a Dr. Energy Saver franchise up in the Texas Panhandle. And after that, 5 years later, sold that. I had to exit there, moved to Austin, Texas, became the sales manager, sales trainer for a kind of a small company doing just under 3 million. And in right around 3 years, we grew it to over 8. And then the owner sold it. And so I didn't spend a lot of time in actually, it was about 2 or 3 weeks in the PE group that bought it. And I was there because I wanted to be, not because I had to be. But at that point, I'd started doing the training, I started doing the podcasting, and moved into coaching, right? And so that was the big jumping off point of, honestly, I didn't start the Close It Now company necessarily to be a sales trainer in the industry. I just knew that if the people in my team needed the message, that somebody else out there probably did too. So I just started Drive Time University every single day. In between appointments, I'm recording voice memo on my phone. So if people go back and listen to the first probably 30 or 40 episodes, it's literally hearing me drive off the road sometimes in rain and, cars in the background, but doing it every day. And so fast forward to about a year ago, we went full time into coaching and training, and kind of the rest is history, man. It's been a wild ride, but it's the 18-year overnight success story, basically.
Fantastic, man. 18 years overnight. I get it. Yeah. All right. Well, it's good to have you on the show, man. And we're a fan of sales here, and we always appreciate guests who have kind of cut their teeth in our specific space in the trades. And I know that our audience has expanded beyond that, but it's always good to have somebody near and dear to the trade, since that is our specialty as well. And we are excited to have you on. So let's dig into this thing, man.
Yeah.
What is like the passion behind your training? Like, why are you even out here doing this thing? I know it seems like an appealing gig to some people, like, oh yeah, man, you don't actually have to get hot and sweaty. You just go, you do a little bit of travel, you see the world a little bit, you go out there and drop a couple pearls, and then you go home and rake in all the dough, man. Is that what it's all about? Or is am I putting it a little too simply?
Well, that couldn't be further from the truth, especially the way I do it. Anytime I'm doing on-sites, I do a half-day class, and then the second half of the day, I'm in the attics, I'm in the crawl spaces, I'm riding along with the people, because that's where the real learning happens, is boots on the ground, right? But yeah, it's as far as that that goes, man. It's entrepreneurship is that roller coaster. When you decide to one, become someone worth buying from, which I really love to. That's kind of one of the big missions, is to inspire, motivate, and encourage everyone that I come across, everyone that hears my voice, to be a better person, to grow as an individual, not only in their sales skills, but in fitness and nutrition and personal growth and relationships and all of the things that makes a person who they are. Because sales skills really is the smallest of the factors of a top performer. So when that's how you can take you take somebody from any industry that's already a top performer, plop them in another industry, and guaranteed in a short amount of time they'll be on the top again, because it's their belief system of who they believe they are. So it's really become a mission to see people win, and to help just everyone that comes in contact with Close It Now to just become a better person for their family, for their community, to make a bigger impact in what they do.
With the exception of Jim Harbaugh, but yeah, all good. So anyways, moving on.
That's your champion, your national champion Michigan Wolverines ex-coach Jim Harbaugh to you.
Okay, yeah.
Did Penn State ever beat that guy anyway? Never mind. Let's move on.
That wasn't the point of the argument. But anyways, thanks for that comment, Brian. So Sam, that's fantastic, man. And the sales piece. So, I'm sure as you've gotten around, you are coming across individuals who are adverse to the concept, right? So I would imagine a fair amount of your introductions are from the ownership level, and they're bringing you in and they're saying like, hey, train my people, get with my people, right? Mm-hmm. And so when that environment happens, rarely, if ever, are you staring at a class full of people, or a training room full of people who are like, dude, this is awesome, man. We just want to learn so much more about this. So speak to the tentatives, speak to the hesitancy, the cynical, the people who are like, here comes another outsider who's going to try to shove stuff down my throat. How do you get over that part in helping people to like see the value in learning more about the concept of sales?
That is a great question. So a lot of it is day one. I just really go hard on helping people see a bit of a different perspective, and it's partially true, but honestly, I've never spent really a single dollar on advertising or marketing or to gain business. So every company that brings me out has listened to the podcast, already aligns and resonates with my message and the way that I approach things. So it's actually a little bit better than that, because at least a handful of people in the room every single time I've gone to a company has listened to a few episodes. Maybe they're in the Facebook group and seen some of the trainings I do in there. And so it's pretty cool to get adopted that well. One of the things that I think has been so good as far as, just really aligning with people is I'm a new voice in our industry. I'm a new voice for sales training. I'm a new voice in the trades. So the way that I do things, most of it comes from other industries outside of what we do. I've been a firm believer, and I've said this for years, that anything that's been done the exact same way for 20, 30, 50 plus years is ripe for revolution. And that's exactly what's happening right now within our industries.
Yeah, it's a great point, man. And there is a lot of opportunity to revolutionize things that have kind of become, the old ways, if you will. And this isn't a shot at the learning of the trades and those types of things. What it is a continued evolution of communication, which is something that the trade stereotypically in the last, I don't know, call it 2 or 3 decades has not thrived in. If you look at what the trades were 2 decades ago, back in like the early 2000s or the 90s or whatever, it was the butt crack plumber jokes were abounding, and the sweaty t-shirts and the all these other things that were just kind of why the trades got put into a certain box, whether you agreed with it or not. And you're part of the new wave that's been really trying to change that perspective internally and externally of the trades for the last 10 years or so. And so very exciting to see people like you jumping in and trying to make a difference in the industry.
I mean, I 100% agree with that. It's one of those things that exactly what you're saying is give the companies that come in and just taking advantage of homeowners. And, I have no problem being the most expensive company in the market. However, there are some companies that have come in and doubled the price for no apparent reason kind of situations. So it's really given our whole industry like a black eye, right? And so all of those, everything from the news exposés with the companies where they set up these stings of catch who comes out to try to pull the wool over the homeowner's eyes, to, just all the reasons that people have lost trust in the trades. Because you think back 40 or 50 years ago, the most trusted person in the entire town was, the HVAC guy or the plumber or the electrician or whoever. It's like, hey, my heater ain't working. Okay, put on a pot of coffee. I'll be over there in about 20 minutes, right? But then across the last few decades, it's given us such a black eye. So I'm really an advocate for bringing trust back to the trades. Let's become the trusted people again in general.
It also speaks to why we have to be so well trained and well versed in communication and sales and whatever you want to call it, closing. Is, there was a time when if you as a technician just said this needs to be done, or on the other hand, which there wasn't enough of back in the day, what there's plenty now, here are some things that I think you and your family would really enjoy, just in terms of upgrades. You have to be so skilled at communication now, because oftentimes the person you're dealing with has listened to the advice of someone crooked, maybe not even in the trades, but in some sales capacity, who misled them or sold them a bunch of stuff that maybe was good stuff, but then something happened to the equipment or whatever it was, and they didn't stand behind their product, and the person just got left holding the bag and felt ripped off. Now they're untrusting of anyone who's selling anything at any time, and you are up against that. But the good news 100%. Is in that, if you're someone who's willing to take on this burden of becoming an excellent, sophisticated communicator with your verbal, nonverbal, body language, facial expressions, tonality, you are going to just blow past the competition, because most people are not built to deal with someone who immediately distrusts them for no reason whatsoever. It just shuts them down. And they have no ability to, even really break the ice with someone, much less get rejected and come back again and get rejected and come back again and get rejected and come back again. And they look at it like rejection, as opposed to what we always say on here is like, it's just a request, almost just a request for help or more information. Look at the no, and the objection is they don't know me well enough. I'm going to keep going until they do.
You got it. I love that you talk about communication so much, because when I speak at conferences and things, one of the talks that I do is change your language, change your results. And it's exactly that. I mean, within our industry, what we, when it comes to sales, there's such a small group of people across the country that are the top performers. But our industry is also full of so many people who have all of the ingredients to be exceptional. But our industry really hasn't trained, for the most part, that level of communication, and definitely has. And if they have, what they've been missing is the psychology behind it. What they're missing is, most importantly, what I believe is the emotional side of sales, the emotional side of buying. Because for so long, we've got this logic. Well, doesn't it make sense? Yeah, it makes total sense, but we're going to have to think about it. And there's no reason for people to necessarily want to take action unless it's an emergency. And that's the missing piece, is the feeling and the emotion. And if people that don't believe it, all you have to do is watch the news. The way people buy across the last 3 to 5 years has so dramatically changed since the pandemic. It's all about feeling now. And if you don't believe it, we never saw news reports about, so-and-so was emotionally triggered, but now we do. So if we agree with it or not, it doesn't matter, because what we say doesn't matter. It's what they say. What our perspective doesn't matter. It's the homeowner's perspective. So we have to remember, we are not the people that are writing the checks. So we have to adjust accordingly and adapt. And that's the big piece that is missing in our industry, is the emotional side of what we're doing here.
Yeah, we talk about this we talk about this as leaders often, but as leaders, our technicians or our employees' perception is our reality. But no matter what level of the company you're at, your client's perception is your reality. So it doesn't matter how you feel about something. It doesn't matter what you think about something. If the client doesn't agree with you, the doors are closing and the lights are going off for the last time.
You got it. 100%.
Great stuff, Sam, and really excited to dig into the content here. So what we want to talk about today is 3 general concepts that you have found to be battle proven and really, really important when it comes to closing, and we'll call them crucial sales techniques, right? And I want to get to that in just a minute. But before we jump into that, if somebody is like brand new to the concept of sales within the home services industry, and they're just kind of getting their feet wet, and maybe they're getting amped up, and this could really be anybody. I mean, it could be somebody who's been in the trade for 10 years and they're finally now willing to start explore the more emotional side, the more connection side of thing. Or it could be somebody who's hot off the the trade school presses, and they're coming into the industry and they finally gotten their own truck and that type of thing, and they're like, all right, man, let's go. So if somebody's coming at this episode and they're listening and they're saying, I don't know, man, just give me one thing as a beginner to sink my teeth into, where would you position that answer?
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good question. I love this topic because for so long, sales, especially in the trades, 80s, 90s, 2000s, even still, there's some trainers that really go hard on this. Basically, kind of a bull in the china closet type of a model. You just go in and classic Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross, ABC, coffees for closers type of idea, which is hilarious. Yeah. And I love that. Right. However, when we start talking about true sales and really selling with your heart and to be able to serve people at the highest level, the easiest way to think about this isn't it better if they're asking you for the business than you having to force it on them? So I'm very much an advocate of what's called permission-based selling. So permission questions to do everything. So what that means is, in fact, I'm all about role play, and I know you're all about role play. We can even demonstrate this as soon as I teach it. So the permission question. So Nate, Brian, would you guys like to hear how to get into the permission question and how it applies?
We would love to.
Awesome, perfect. So let's do this a couple ways. So I'm gonna break it apart real quick. And so, who's gonna be my homeowner, Nate or Brian, or are y'all a couple?
Oh yeah, Nate's my wife, 100%.
Okay.
Sorry, again, side piece. Nate's my side piece. But we have a nice apartment together. We're having you check out the HVAC equipment.
Love it. Okay,
Sam, I do not grant permission for this conversation to continue.
Oh, I love this. Oh my gosh. Okay, so permission questions are super important. Yeah, permission questions are important because it changes everything in the way people respond. So I always like to use IAQ or as the example here. And because we've all been in those situations, and I know you guys have too, how many times have you gone into a house and the homeowner asks you a question directly and you start to answer it and the wall goes up, the resistance wall goes up, their eyes glaze over. Half the time they'll grab their phone and literally start scrolling Facebook or texting right in the middle of your answer. And you're like, what's going on? You literally just asked me this question, right? And so it's like, how do we overcome that? How do we get past that? So this is one of the very easiest ways to do it, especially for new people, but everyone can implement this and apply it. And it not only works with our clients, it's perfect for your partner, for your wife, your husband, your kids, your whoever.
Your side piece, Nate.
Your side piece, right? So what we're going to do is you're the homeowner. I'm in the house. You're just going to ask me, hey, general homeowner question, like, you know what? My side piece, Nate, has been having a ton of allergies lately. Do you guys have anything to help out with that? Right. So let's go. So I'm going to take you through how we would traditionally answer. Then I'm going to take you through with permission questions. So there's a couple lenses I want you to view this through. One is
I want you to really lean in on the HVAC tech and how technical they get, because all they have is their technical knowledge, and boy, do they love to parade that around.
Can do. I'm literally sitting in a group of techs this week having this conversation every single day. So ask me that question. I'll take you through the old school way, and then we'll do the new one.
All right. So, anywho, my side piece, Nate here, she's very sensitive to the seasonal allergies around here, and
needs to stop.
Her kids come over sometimes, and they open the door, and all the pollen comes in with them, and I'm telling you, it triggers her, and her nose just goes crazy. I can barely take it. Got any products that can help her out with that?
You know what? We absolutely do. We've got what's called an EAC. It's the electronic air cleaner. You're going to love it. It captures, it kills. It's got an electronic plate over it. It sends electrical charge. So when all of that stuff moves across it, it's not only going to catch it, it's going to kill it. And then we also have what's called an air scrubber. It's a germicidal lamp. What that means is that sucker's going to be right in your heating and air equipment. Man, it's going to destroy anything moving through there. How does that sound? Okay, so time out.
I need to think about it.
You had me at germicidal.
So was that technical enough, or we need to go deeper?
I feel like you probably spared us about 15 minutes of technical jargon there.
You're right.
That really would have come out if we asked that question.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so ask me again, and we're going to go through it using a permission question. And there's one other thing that we're going to talk about here in a second. It's called social proof. So I'm going to answer it the way that I trained to answer it, and see everyone listen to how simple it is. And the other thing that I want you to notice, Nate, is watch Brian's actual physiology in this and what happens. And by physiology, I mean his actual physical posture, right? And this is role play. We know what's happening, and it will still happen. So imagine how much better it's going to be with a homeowner when they're not in role play. So go ahead.
So, Sam, you met my side piece, Nate, here. Look, I only bring her over here so we can watch The Voice together, and the allergies get to her, and she sneezes on my forearm, and I'm trying to watch this show, and it gets everywhere, and it's really gross. If we could do something about the allergies, we'd be really grateful. Do you have any products for that?
You know what? I have been hearing that a lot lately from people right around in this very neighborhood. We have some really good solutions for that. Would you like to hear what they are?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, perfect. Well, listen, what most of the time we've done for most people in this area, they love what's called our indoor air quality bundle. What that means is basically our Breathe Easy bundle. It's a combination of two different things. They work together. But before we get into that, do you mind if I ask you a couple more questions about what causes the allergies specifically? That way I can make the right recommendations for you.
I don't mind. Do you mind, honey?
No, let's just make it quick. The view's coming on here later.
I love it. So time out. So we're there. But did you feel the difference in the way that response is versus the first time?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The most interesting thing that happens every single time I do this is the second time when we ask the permission question, almost to a T, every single person starts nodding and leaning forward. Whereas the first time we're just telling and they actually eyebrows raised. It's almost like it turns them off. So by just asking, yeah, well, of course we've got some great options for that. Would you like to hear what they are? And they say yes. That resistance wall immediately drops, eyes unglaze, they lean forward and they're engaged in the conversation. And we don't move forward until they actually answer, physically, verbally answer yes. Right. So we expect a response. So part of it is, we're training our homeowners how to buy from us as much as educating. And so that permission question is so powerful. So anytime we get questions, answer it that way. Of course, we've got some great solutions. Would you like to hear what they are? Or even say we're, presenting new information. It's like, hey, I remember we talked about this. Would you like to hear what I found? Or is it okay if I show you if we go through this right now? So those type of permission questions really will change everything in an appointment if we remember to use them.
I like that, Sam, and that's a super easy concept to apply really whenever, but especially if you're brand new to sales and communication or looking to kind of step into that world. It's a great way of discerning the engagement level of the client as opposed to expending what ends up being a lot of emotional and technical energy, which is kind of like casting pearls before swine if the swine are really not interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not to mention, not even if you're just new, recently getting into it, but just about every. I mean, I haven't seen the high level producer who doesn't go through slumps. And if you're in a slump right now, and this isn't something you do already, this will take nothing away from your presentation. This won't change up your presentation in a way that messes you up or mixes you up in any way, shape, or form. But if you just start, it's funny that you brought this up because we were training on this in Phoenix recently, where we make too many statements, too many of the sentences that come out of our mouths when we're presenting, and with periods, and not enough with question marks.
Mm-hmm.
And if they ask if you have a product for this or if you have a solution for this, is what they'd probably ask for. And you say, actually, I do. Would you like to hear about it? And you're not changing enough of your presentation to go off, right? To get lost. But it's enough that might get you sales when you're in a slump, and just change things up enough in a positive way that just, boom, you're out of that slump.
Love it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the coolest thing happens too once you've done it 2 or 3 times, because one of the things that drives me nuts and common language pattern that most people have in the home is, so I'm going to tell you about my company. I'm going to tell you about, and then they just blow right into it. And it's like fire hosing the homeowner. And so, hey, I'd love to tell you a little bit about my company. Would that be all right? Is such a different type of question than, hey, I'm going to tell you about my company. So we've been around for X many years. it's pushback versus pull forward type of communication.
Good stuff there, Sam, and what a great appetizer. That was a little bit of a bonus there for you. Now it's time to get to the meat and potatoes, which is actually the main emphasis of the episode here. The 3 crucial sales techniques that would apply to anybody in this type of environment, whether you're brand new or been in it. Let's talk about those 3. So, teeing it up for you here, man. When you're talking about bringing all of the different concepts that you train on and that you develop and that you see people struggling with in the field, give us the first point here that anybody in sales can really focus on to start driving better closing.
Yes, it all has. So step 1, 85% of your objections come from not doing the introduction properly. And the introduction is everything. And there's something called the moment of rapport, right? The moment of rapport happens when you're in a new environment, people's shoulders drop. All of a sudden you look at your watch, they look at their watch, you cross your legs, they cross their legs. So you're starting to lead the energy. We all know that when that happens, but normally for most people, it's 20, 25, 30 minutes into the appointment. The old school way to do this is we falsely thought that to create rapport, I'm glad you mentioned that word, we falsely think that to create rapport, we have to do what's called form. It grosses me out that people still train this. Form is so awful. Everyone's BS meter goes off a mile high the second we start with, oh, you like the Raiders? I like the Raiders. You got a dog? I got a dog. You play golf? I play golf. You wear clothes? I wear clothes. We're just alike.
Beautiful family.
Horrible. Yeah. You've got a gorgeous, what a beautiful home. I love your truck.
What is it? Family, occupation, recreation, material possession?
You got it, man. That's exactly it. Right. So that is fake rapport. Everyone knows that is fake news. Real rapport.
Well, there's one thing that we should slide in there. It's like, if I walk into the home of a Michigan Wolverine fan and they have Michigan Wolverine posters and Tom Brady and his 7 Super Bowl rings, that Michigan quarterback.
7 plus 1.
I didn't know if you remembered that. Or the fact that they're national champions right now, defending national champion Michigan Wolverines. If they had posters everywhere and I just like, oh, yes, go blue, like high five them, that's real rapport. And you should, if you feel something strongly, like they have the exact same kind of car you do, and you're really excited about that car, and you're both, big car enthusiasts or Harley enthusiasts, you should definitely go with it and lean into it. But when you use form just to find something they're into and pretend you're into it too, and this is the big issue I'm sure Sam has with this type of training, and the same as myself. I think most straight up decent sales trainers that still use that, they teach you to use it genuinely. So look for one of the 4 that you can actually connect with the person with. The challenge is you're going to run into so many people that you don't connect on any of them with. And then the temptation is there to fake it.
Yep.
And the second, man, Jocko Willink always says intentions leave a smell. And when your intention is to connect with somebody, even if it's in a false way, they smell you coming a mile away. Now they do the same thing to you. Oh, that's great. You too. Smile, smile. And then you end up writing the most corny thing that's ever been written on an invoice before, but I still see it from time to time and it cracks me up, which is had no interest in blah, blah, blah.
Right. I 100%
and you have no idea where you miss them. You can't figure out where did I go wrong, or you, like most amateur salespeople, say, I don't understand where the customer went wrong. I did everything right, but they still didn't connect with me. Nobody could have sold this one. And little do you know, you lost them right at the occupation thing, where you started trying to connect with them on the fact that they work at a veterinary hospital and you don't care about animals at all.
Right. Oh,
so they feel that.
I 100% agree.
And you've lost them.
Yeah. And what you're saying, it all comes back to authenticity, right? Authenticity is everything. Am I saying not to do that at all? Absolutely not. Sprinkle it in throughout the appointment. What I am saying is, you don't go to the doctor and they come in and talk about their golf game last week. You're not going to lunch with them next week. Professional rapport, which is if we are wanting to be top performers, we are professionals in the home. So what happens when a doctor comes in? They're going to ask questions, they're going to evaluate, and they're going to write a prescription, assume the sale, right? That's basically what doctors do. We are the experts in the home, so we have to treat it that way. Also, the big missing piece that I see is so many people do this out of order. The order of your appointment is everything. So the biggest problem that so many people have is they run their appointment out of order. So what I mean by that is they will go into the home, and it doesn't matter what trade we're in. They'll go into the home. Hey, why am I here? I see on the notes it's got this, this, this. Okay, great. Show me this, show me that. And they just go off to the races, start measuring stuff. Then they'll go back down and basically act like they're a magician. And they're trying to sell to the house. They're trying to sell to the problems they found in the home. We forget that the house doesn't write the check, the people write the check. People buy it. They not only buy what they want, they will spend more on what they want than what they need. So it's our job to show, basically pass everything through the benefit lens, because not a single person woke up this morning and said, man, I need to buy a new air conditioner today. Or, man, I just really want to buy a new water heater, right? Nobody woke up and said that. What they did say is, God, it's just really uncomfortable in here. I wonder if there's something we can do about that. Man, my allergies are killing me. It'd be great if there was something. My bills are high. Oh my gosh, my water's not very hot. I wonder if we can fix that. So they want the benefits, but they wouldn't give us a single dollar if they didn't have to. So putting things in the right order, we go in and we're trying to be this magician and not really understanding what's important to them. So moving things into the right order means, we can't, and also we go through these appointments. We never introduced ourselves. We never, more than just, hi, my name is, we never introduce ourselves and give any information about why we're the expert there. And we never introduce the company, or even worse, once we've done the evaluation, we sit down at the table and say, okay, so a little bit about our company is, but it's too late then. So the right way to do it, and then we ask for $40,000 and expect or surprised when we hear I want to think about it. It doesn't make any sense. So move the intro to the beginning, and when we do that, we've got to give a little bit of information. So it's through permission, and what we're going to do is basically like, hey, our clients tell us it's important to know about the company and the person they're working with. We think that's important too. I'd love to take a second to tell you about me and my company. Would that be all right? And they say yes. And then we give a quick highlight reel of ourselves. So the problem is having everything out of order. So we've got to go back and we've got to do the introductions, right? We go through our whole process and we never introduce ourselves to the company. We expect our homeowners to just give us $20, $30, $40, $50,000 right on the spot. So, and we wonder why we're getting, I want to think about it. So we've got to go back and start at the beginning. There's a couple reasons the intro goes at the beginning. One, we've got to give a homeowners time to get used to a new person in their environment. Just how our brains are wired. It takes a little bit just to get used to something new. But more importantly, and I always tell this story to relate to this and why it's important. So imagine, Brian, you go to the park on a gorgeous 75-degree day. And well, you're in Phoenix, so gorgeous 95-degree day. And your kids are playing at the park, right? You sit down on the park bench. You look over and there's this old guy next to you.
So it's 3 a.m. Gotcha.
Yeah, right, exactly. So you sit down on this park bench and you look over, there's this old dude next to you, and he starts just, giving you financial advice and investment advice and all this stuff. 30 minutes later, you're like, all right, come on, kids. I can't stand this, cold 95 degrees anymore. I've got to go get somewhere warm. And so you're like, hey, I'm Brian. What was your name? And he goes, shakes your hand and says, I'm Warren Buffett. And you're like, oh, snap. I wish I would have known who he was. I would have paid attention better. I would have taken notes. I would have listened better. Why? How different would that conversation have gone if you sat down and said, "Hey, I'm Brian. Hey, what's your name?" And he's like, "Hey, I'm Warren Buffett. Do you mind if I give you some investment advice?" Absolutely, sir. Can I record this? Can I take notes? And why is that? It's the credibility flag. We know who he is, so we listen at a different level.
Right.
So it has everything to do with that when we introduce ourselves. And it doesn't have to be long or flashy, but it's the formula for this is fact, heart. So we introduce the company first, then yourself, because they called the company, they didn't call you. So you introduce the company first. So it sounds something like, hey,
Every single
our
one
clients
of them,
tell us, it's important to know about the company and the person they're working with. We think that's important too. Okay, so the introduction sounds, with permission question, sounds like, hey, our clients tell us it's important to know about the company, the person they're working with. We think that's important, so I'd love to tell you a little bit about me and my company. Would that be all right? Once they answer, then we introduce our company, we introduce ourselves, and the formula is fact, heart. So, if you're a local company or if you're not, it doesn't matter how long the company's been in business, or if the company's been around for a very short amount of time, what's the combined experience in the company, right? So that's step one. Step two is I love to use Google reviews, and it sounds like this. It's like, so the company I'm here training is like and I'm going to shout out here at TE Fall, we've got 620 Google reviews at a 4.9 star average. One thing we love about Google, and I don't know if you know this, Mr. Homeowner, is you cannot pay Google to get rid of negative reviews. So we've earned every single one of those. All of our employees are our employees. We don't use any subcontractors like a lot of those other companies do. So that means everyone is background checked, drug screened, and factory trained. It's important to us for your safety that we know who we're putting in your home. And one thing I love so much about our company is how we give back to the community. And this is the heart piece, how we get back into the community. And we do that through, and I'll just tell a story from one of the companies, is we work with this organization called Swing for the Cure, which we donate towards cancer research every year. And through our partnership with them, we've raised over $3.5 million for cancer research. Personally, and then you give your personal intro, fact, heart. The heart piece is important in this because it helps to relate as a person. We are people, we're not just a company. And so once you go through fact, heart for your personal introduction, and I'll do mine here real quick just to give an example, which is basically what I did at the beginning. It's like, personally, I've been in the industry 18 years, started off as an attic rat pulling ductwork. I was promoted into service. I was promoted into what I do now, which is project management. And my passion is helping homeowners just like yourself live comfortably, efficiently, turning your home into a sanctuary away from what's going on in the outside world. Do we sound like the kind of company you would feel comfortable with so far? And that's the introduction. And it's so important that we get that in because we close like 80% of the objection doors at the end right here in the first 5 minutes. Because it was we could break this apart and spend 2 hours on all of the little things all the doors that we just closed there. But it's crucial that we plant those flags. So one quick ninja trick bonus for handling objections is when you are able to get your Google reviews in the beginning, and they say, "Oh yeah, that's awesome. That's why we called you," or whatever. But you go through the number of Google reviews and the star rating, and then at the end, that is your easiest catch-all objection handler. So let's do one super quick role play. One of y'all hit me with say a presented price. Hit me with a price flinch. Oh, that's a high price. And I'll show you. We'll train how to use the Google reviews as the big catch-all objection handler.
Dude, Sam, are you out of your mind, man? Like, I can't go to Costco for less than $300 a trip. It's hard enough to put food on the table right now, man. I can't be looking at spending $1,500, $2,000 for something like this.
Oh, gotcha. No, I totally hear you. But do you mind if I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Remember we talked about those Google reviews at the beginning?
Yes.
Do you think that we would have that many Google reviews at that high of star rating from people in this area, in your own neighborhood, if we were out here taking advantage of people with price?
I would suppose not.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm glad you see that. So, I mean, knowing that, I mean, why don't we just get on the calendar?
Yeah, I understand. I understand what you're trying to say, man. It's money's money. It's tight right now.
Oh, 100% agree. So when you say that much, I mean, do you mind if I ask you how? So let's go back to the problems we talked about here. So of course we'll take them to a problem. The reason that people get so stuck on price is they let once we present price, they let the spotlight stay there. The way to get away from price is circle back to and shine the spotlight on the problem and then the solution. Problem and
Right.
solution, and it takes that back off of the price. So I just want to be clear, man. So you're comfortable with our company, right? Doing the work.
Yeah, I like you guys, and I like you as your stand-up dude. I can see that.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, actually, I'm glad you said that. That was my next question is, you're comfortable with me making sure that you get exactly what we talked about and overseeing this project all the way to completion and being your point of contact, right?
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. And so the project we're talking about, you can definitely see how the problems you said are going to be solved by what we're talking about with the solutions here, right?
Yes, I can see how that would work together.
Great. So it's just the money then, right?
Yeah, man, that's what it is.
Okay, for sure. So, I mean, tell me a little bit more about that. What about the money?
Well, like I said, I mean, it's everything's really going up, and that's certainly made it a little bit harder to have kind of some of that spare money laying around.
I totally get that. So when you say spare money laying around, I mean, when you say spare money, it sounds like this is way less important than, something that you would be very intentional about solving for you and your family.
Yes, I mean, I could see that. I definitely see the value. Is there? Can we lower the price? Is there any movement on that number?
Lower the price?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys offer discounts or like specials or something like that.
You know what we have going on right now, and I think you're really going to enjoy, is I just heard about a new program that just started. If there was a way where you could spread this out across maybe 6 months and have a nice, comfortable, easy monthly payment, but with no interest, would that help you?
That would definitely be something I'd be interested in.
Oh, absolutely. So all we'll need is some quick numbers here, show you what that'll look like, and just need a couple quick authorizations on this form. Why don't we go ahead and get you going?
Let's do it. Nice and smooth, Sam. I like it.
Yeah, thanks. So that's but that's the flow, right? That's the process. So that using that Google like reviews is the big catch-all. You can use it for price. And asking it as a question. Nobody asks enough questions. So using that as, do you think we would have that many reviews at that higher rating if we were taking advantage of people with price? Or if the objection is, I don't know, if this is really going to work, do you think we would have those many reviews if we weren't able to solve people's problems? Or you can craft that into this big catch-all objection handler for just about anything, because we set it up at the beginning to handle the objection. So when there's new information at the end, when an objection comes up and we have to talk about something that we haven't talked about before, it becomes a conflict. If we plant the credibility flags and we plant the flags at the beginning of the appointment, we got to remember our homeowners have the most convenient short-term memory on the planet. So we have to constantly remind them of everything we talked about. So just the easiest way to handle objection is, hey, remember we talked about this thing? And they'll say, oh yeah, because they agreed to it at the beginning. We're just reminding them that they had agreed to it at the beginning. So now they have no argument. When we know we've already handled that objection, we're just reminding them that we already did. And they have nowhere to go other than, you know what, you're right.
Great stuff there, Sam, and I really appreciate how you're putting a ton of focus. I mean, that was it, man. That was some extra content there, as you really dove into the concept of making sure that the call order is in the proper format and the order is the order, right? And really focusing on bringing up some of those things into the front of the call so they become assets to what you're going to do later in the call, right? So it's kind of like the concept of, if you're going on a road trip, make sure that you put gas in the tank at the very beginning. That way, when you're in the middle of a highway somewhere and you're feeling a little bit stranded out there, you don't have to worry so much about making sure that you have enough fuel to get to the next gas station. And so I appreciate the fact that you're really honing in on the concept of making sure that you are positioning yourself for the wins up front, spending that time developing that real rapport with the client, not faking it, making sure you're genuine and authentic, and then making sure that you're bringing in some of those key factors such as review or social contagion, like proof and those types of things, into the front of the conversation to give you an ally later on.
100%. And one of the coolest things, that just a really quick point about when I get asked, and as every trainer does when it sells, we get asked about how to handle objections is the most common question. And what I always say about that is your system handles your objections for you. If you're getting a common objection over and over, it's not your market, it's not anything else, it's not your client base. It's actually a symptom of something you're doing earlier in the appointment that's causing them to think of that thing over and over. Because the logical conclusion to a well-executed sales process is the sale. So anybody that gets the same objection over and over, it's somewhere in your process that you're planting the seed for them to think about it. So if you figure out what that is and fix it, that objection magically starts to disappear.
Right on, Sam. And it's
Sam,
time for...
Where'd you say you are right now? Training?
I am in Carbondale, Pennsylvania at TE Fall up here. So huge shout out to you guys.
That's kind of a remote place, right? I don't even know where Carbondale is, and I live in Pennsylvania.
It's 2.5 hours north of Philadelphia. It's like the coal capital of the state up here.
Perfect. So I live in Carbondale, though. You can't tell me this stuff works on our clients, Sam.
A year ago, I was in State College, Pennsylvania. Right now, I'm here in Carbondale, and we're hitting all these rural clients. And you know what? We're putting up insane numbers up here. So it's fun. It's awesome.
Even there, it works?
Even here, just like in the city, it works and the reason for it is this is not some sort of gimmicky thing that, you say these lines and it's a magic bullet. Everything that I do and I train is based in human psychology and the human experience. So people are people. The way the brain works is the way the brain works, and psychology is psychology. So when you understand those dynamics, I'm not here to teach people, if they say this, you say this exact thing, and have a Rolodex of all of these 85 ways to handle objections. All you need to know is like 3 things. If you understand ask better clarifying questions to understand where their questions and objections are coming from, then you understand the meaning behind it, and you can start to I'm here to teach people how to think and how to unpack those things and discover the real reasons with as few of words and as short amount of time as possible.
That's great stuff, Sam. And we are ready to move on to point number 2. But before we do, we are out of time on this episode, and I'm afraid we're going to have to tie off for right now and come back next week for the remaining 2 crucial items to focus on for your sales career. Are you willing to join us again next week, Sam?
Absolutely. It's an honor and pleasure to be able to pour into the Waste No Day community and the Waste No Day just tribe, which I've been a member of for so long. It's a pleasure and a joy for me to be able to give back.
I'm just going to tell you, I want to see. Oh, we appreciate that, buddy. And we're glad to have you. We actually read your review on the podcast several weeks ago, and which reminded me to get in touch with you and say, we got to make this thing happen, because you and I have been flirting with it for, like a year and a half now.
Like a year and a half.
Yeah.
I think it was, oh, geez, it's longer than that because I think I actually called in when y'all were in the office together. And we actually talked on the phone at one point in time, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was some time ago. But on part 2, I want to see some real Nate Minnick in a selling situation, push back on some of these strategies and see where they go. Good with that, buddy?
I love that. I love role play. You guys love role play. Listen, wow, we just did rapport. We're just alike.
Good stuff, Sam. Well, hey, it's been so good to have you on. And before we wrap up the episode, in case somebody is really digging what you've been laying out here and they're interested in learning more about you,
make them wait a week.
No, man, the people need to know. They need to know right now. Where can they find Sam Wakefield?
So first of all, join the Facebook group. It's the Close It. Just search Close It Now. Close It Now Sales Training. Hit there. You can go to closeitnow.net is the website to learn more. You can email me, sam@closeitnow.net, or pop me a text, 512-364-8559. And I'm easy to get a hold of.
Love it, Sam. And we are excited to get a hold of you again next week as we wrap up this episode. Appreciate you being on and dropping some great content for our listeners already.
Absolutely, man. It's been a pleasure.
I'm pumped for next week, buddy. I can't wait. This is a solid episode. This is one I can't wait for my team to hear.
100%. Next week, it'll be even better because we're going to get into some a little deeper stuff that everyone can use, but it is super powerful.
Awesome.
Well, hey, that's a wrap for this episode. We hope that you enjoyed your time with Sam Wakefield as we put him in your passenger seat. Great stuff there to really get us going. Anything talking about bonding and rapport, to making sure you're doing the call in the right order, to, of course, asking for permission to see and test the waters of engagement with your client. Really good practical advice that you can put into the call that you're driving to right now and begin changing and revolutionizing your sales process and getting better along the way. Make sure you hit Sam up. He gave you all of his contact information there. Let him know that you loved this episode and that you'd like to hear from him. Join his Facebook group. We're not ashamed to promote him as a fellow person in the industry because, let's say, there's always a lot more hours in the drive week than there is great content to listen to. And so please go out there and listen to his thing and what he is doing and celebrate those wins as well. For now, we're going to leave you with our weekly challenge, which continues to be the same: to choose to wake up each and every morning and waste no day.